Hi there, and welcome to this month's video with Strategy Plus. I'm joined by our PPC expert, Emma. Hi, Emma.
Hello.
Looking forward to this?
I am. I've not had to do something like this before that's recorded, so I'm excited to see how it'll go.
It'll all go swimmingly. Okay, so PPC, in other words, Google Ads. You used to call it AdWords, and now it's Ads, Google Ads. And the one topic we're going to try and cover today is all about conversion tracking and conversions in general. So, first of all, what's a conversion, Emma?
A conversion can be anything that you want it to be, basically. I think it's a word that our clients hear and they go, "Oh, what does that even mean?" It's essentially just the goal that you're trying to achieve when people land on your website.
Okay,
And
so
yeah.
the goal could be if it's lead gen, for example, if it's B2B and it's not e-commerce, for example, a conversion could be a form fill. It could even be a download of a document that you're trying to push as for lead gen or something like that. A phone call, email, click. What are the kind of actions do you think are on the website that could be conversions? Have I covered them all?
I mean, e-commerce purchases and orders, that being a big one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can also get leads directly from Google Ads themselves, can't you?
Yeah, so there is an extension you can add to your ads, which is just a form underneath the ad that people can fill out very easily. But the problem is because there's very little friction with people actually filling out the form, they tend to be a bit spammy. So we don't tend to use those very often.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, calls directly from ads, unless you're a locksmith, an emergency services or something like that, out of hours service kind of thing. People just need anybody and they're just going to click, or a taxi company, for example. Those will probably be okay to try and sort of optimize for calls directly from ads. But yeah, normally we wouldn't optimize an ad for calls directly from an ad. We want people to go to the website first, see what it's all about, and then hopefully if they come up, have a conversion after that, it's more qualified lead, isn't it?
Precisely.
You'd hope so. Okay, so why are they so important when we're talking about PPC and Google Ads?
If you don't have conversion tracking, and you're using what I mean, if you're using an automated bid strategy, which is maximize conversions or maximize conversion value, then if you don't have any conversion data in your account, then you're essentially like Google is just blind to what is working and what is not working. So you can control what the ads say, you can control the audiences that they target, you can control the keywords, but if you don't have any conversion tracking, then like that is fundamentally like the thing that will Google will use its machine learning to go after once it achieves that. And once it starts spotting patterns in like this type of person converts, so we'll target the person who exhibits the same kind of search patterns, and it will try and find a variety of things like that. So that's why it can take time for it to go through a learning phase and to find the right people. But if you don't have conversions in there, you're kind of donating your money to Google, basically.
It's shooting blind, isn't it? It really.
Absolutely, yeah.
Um, so, I mean, in the olden days, before kind of automated bidding, I think it was smart bidding, and it was a bit dodgy. I think, we just thought it was a way that Google was going to spend your money and it wasn't really optimizing it at all. So people like to try and have control over what they were spending. So things like it was cost per click, wasn't it? And manual cost per click bidding and that kind of thing. And you know what, back then, I hated it. I didn't want to get involved in it. It was only because of this machine learning has improved and this automated bidding has come about. I absolutely love it. It makes sense. So yeah, before it was controlling the price of the click based on search terms. Now we are trying to control the price of the conversion. So we've got to say what is the maximum cost per conversion. So if it's lead gen, and you've got roughly a 1 in 3 conversion rate of your inquiries that come through the Google Ads on your website, and you only want to spend maybe 300 quid to get a piece of business, you need to make sure that your cost per conversion is less than £100. Okay, so that's kind of where our measurement is. If we're under there, that's good. Also, if you're doing e-commerce, you can do things like return on ad spend. So the value of that conversion. So it's easy to measure value with e-commerce. It's the value of the sale. So let's just say you've got a 50% markup on your products, plus you've got other costs over the top. Really, you want to be making maybe 400, 500 times plus your ad spend. Okay, so it's a 400 times or 450, 500 times your ad spend. So if you spend £1,000, you want to be getting £4,000 or £5,000 back to cover the cost of the product itself, the cost of the ads, and any other kind of overheads, and leave a bit of profit. So anything over 450% really is really good. So that's another way that we kind of like benchmark what we're trying to achieve. So that, I suppose, is the ultimate goal, isn't it? That you're now not optimizing for the cost per click, but the cost per conversion, and also the actual, the return on investment. That's the ultimate goal, isn't it, that you're trying to track. So once we've got those conversions, we've got various different types of conversions. Do we optimize for all of them? Or I know Google has primary and secondary conversions. So
This is it. So it's good, like your primary conversion is what your bid strategies are going after. That's the ultimate goal. But that doesn't mean that you can't also have other goals that you want to monitor that it's not necessarily being optimized towards. Otherwise, you're trying to do too many things at once and it gets confused. But you can see at least how like say you wanted people to fill out this form, but there's also people calling or they're clicking onto a specific page of the website, and it's just good to see, oh, how many people are actually doing that through Google Ads and just getting that extra data. It's always handy to have as much data as possible, especially if we're getting less and less visibility of that.
And I suppose we also got to mention that we're actually importing this conversion data from Google Analytics typically. But and I suppose touching on, you mentioned about a particular page. So there's a specific example. We took over a client that was an e-commerce site, but they're optimizing for, I think, checkout pages. How many times people landed on a checkout page? So not actually purchasing, but just getting to the checkout page. So somehow they hadn't set up the actual full e-commerce conversion tracking. So they were just optimizing for people landing on the checkout page. So you could have that as a secondary conversion, couldn't you? You could say, right, well, we can see we're getting genuine people because they are looking around and they are putting things in the checkout. They're just not purchasing. So you can see that the Google ads are getting so far. So if you're not getting enough proper conversion data in terms of sales, at least you can see, well, they're getting to the checkout. So maybe there's an issue with the checkout. Maybe the delivery costs are too much. Maybe it's too complex. Maybe they haven't got, a credit card option, a Klarna, or something like that. So at least you could go back to the client or your operations team and say, look, the Google ads seem to be okay. They just seem to be getting stuck at the checkout. We seem to be getting decent quality traffic. It's going to the checkout, but they're not converting. So even though you're optimizing the ads for actual conversions, money in the bank, orders, return on ad spend, you can still have that data in there as a secondary conversion. So I suppose that's a fair example, I think, isn't it?
I think that's a good example. Yeah.
So I touched on it there. So what is involved in conversion tracking? So many of us, including myself, are not technically gifted. So every time we have to do it, I have to get somebody else to do this for me. But yeah, could you explain in layman's terms how you set up this tracking and explain why it's got a little bit harder since the EU's consent laws?
Yes. So, I mean, the first thing is what have you built your website on? Because that will make things either very difficult or very easy for you. If you're using something like Shopify, WordPress, they integrate pretty nicely with GA4, Google Analytics 4. You can have it so that it's purely you're getting the conversions tracked within GA4, and like they're called either events, and you can have lots and lots of different types of events, but the ones that you really want to optimize towards and show and also pull into Google, they need to be upgraded to key events.
And you upgrade
But,
those by going into the admin area, finding events, and you just click a button next to the ones that are events and you want to make them key events. So that's
yes,
pretty straightforward. I can do that.
yeah. If you're like integrating directly from like say Shopify and it's an e-commerce business, then that should pull in purchases pretty swiftly and sort of e-commerce data like that. And that will be sort of embedded within the code of the website itself. Um, a way that you can have different kinds of conversions being tracked without having to actually go in and manually edit the code is by setting up Google Tag Manager. And this requires like a one-time add this snippet of code into the header and the body of your website. And you should then be able to use that to just go into Google Tag Manager, create an event that you want to track, a page view, a click, someone filling out a form, and you don't have to go in and like change a bunch of stuff on your website. You can just do it in there, and that will import into Google Analytics 4, and then you can then import that into Google Ads. And you can do it so that it doesn't necessarily even have to go through GA4. It can be straightforward from Google Tag Manager into Google Ads. But the benefit of having it all in Google Analytics 4 is that you can have multiple channels streaming their data in there. And that way you can see the attribution of what channel actually led to that conversion, because it could be that Meta was also part of the journey, and therefore Meta should get a portion of the attribution for that conversion going through.
Yeah, I'd always suggest having your data in Google Analytics because then, as you say, it's got that holistic picture from all channels, and you can see the conversion rate from each and every channel and the traffic and all this kind of stuff and how they behave differently. So yeah, get it into Google Analytics and then get it into Google Ads. That would be good. And then consent mode.
Ah,
Okay,
yes.
I hate talking about it, but unfortunately, it's a necessity.
Yes. So in the EU, I think in the past few years, they've made it even stricter, the rules that, well, actually, if I go back, so the sort of implementation of cookie banners in the first place, I can't remember how many years ago this was, but it was, I think, during my teenage years, so maybe about 10 or so years ago, it was you
You're
have
making me
to
feel
have a
old
cookie
there,
banner.
Emma.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't trying to but it was something that was added in so that people were able to say if they wanted to have their data online on that website tracked. And if they opted out, you weren't allowed to um, gather that data. What they've done recently in the past couple of years is they've made it even tighter, the regulations. So people have to explicitly state if they want to like have their ads like ads personalization. And if they click off the box or if they deny, like there's pretty much nothing that you can track on Google Analytics from them. And people saw when this was implemented, people saw a big drop in traffic that was coming through websites and the amount of leads they were getting, the amount of revenue they were getting, and it's purely because of this change. And I think over time, initially there's a big drop, but then over time, Google's been able to model conversions based off predicted behavior, based off what other people have been doing. So it's been able to like crawl back into you seeing a sort of fairly representative amount of like data and conversions through there, but it's still you're not going to get it to be you're not going to be able to see the same amount of data in analytics or in Google Ads as you would see actually coming through your website in the back end.
Yeah, that's important. Sometimes we always have to double check, don't we, in the back of BigCommerce, Shopify, or wherever it may be, to see what the data is in there and how it relates to Google Analytics. So we see that, if it's 10, 20% the same, I think it's about right. But sometimes we see it just completely differently. So we do have to have a look and see if we can clean that up. So you need the consent banner on your website. There's only about maybe 20 different consent banners that Google kind of suggests are legit and that sort of enable their consent mode v2. Consent mode v2 for Google is basically their data model. They need certain things ticked on the website and the consent banners for it to be able to process certain things. And basically, over time, they understand certain actions and behaviors result in sales or a lead or this, that, the other. So it might only miss out the last 20% of the journey, but because they've sort of measured thousands of these journeys before, they predict that the same thing happened before, and therefore that would have generated that lead sort of thing. So I'm not sure if I'm explaining it perfectly, but they're trying to fill that missing gap with big data that they've had previously. What were your thoughts on that?
I was going to make sure to point out that that sort of conversion gap filling tends to happen with the big spender accounts. So you don't necessarily see it if you're only spending like £20 a day. You'll probably see it if you're spending hundreds of pounds a day, just because there is more data for Google to go off, and it will tell you whether or not it's doing that and doing the conversion modeling.
Mm.
In you can't say, oh, once you're spending X amount, you can get it. It's based off it deciding for you if it's going to do that for you.
Well, we advise we always install a consent banner called Termly. I mean, it's £16 a month, and you think just for a consent banner that you don't really want on your website, £16 a month is a real kick in the backside, really. But they are quite clever in the way that you do it. You can tailor it and customize it to yourself. It'll automatically update the cookie policy with any cookies that you add to the site. So if you add a meta pixel, all the rest of it, it will scan your site, see what's on there, and it'll update your sort of policies on there, which is good.
Mhm.
Um,
One thing that I just want to sort of say is the sort of what the expected accept rate would be for on average for people clicking on like accept onto cookie banners. So I think for a cookie banner that is not very well designed, where it's really easy to just click off it or to click deny, or they haven't changed the color to make that stand out for the allow button, you'd probably typically expect between like 60 and 65% of people would actually click yes. I think the top end of that would be about 75-80% of people clicking onto it. So, like it's if you're getting hundreds of people going onto your website, that's a lot of data to be missing out on if you just don't have something that is designed well, that's still compliant. It's just people will just click anywhere to get rid of it. So
yeah,
you want to
but
make sure it's
there are grey areas with the consent banners as well. So you have to give the option for people to opt out. But with Termly and other consent banners, you can make that option just a little bit more difficult than it is to accept it. Does that make sense? So you can have accept and decline, or more information, or optimize my preferences, or you could just have accept my preferences. So people have to click into the preferences and then tick out and this, that, the other. So there are little ways to try and increase the conversion rate of the consent banner approval, because some people just can't be bothered to go into those. So, but technically, you are supposed to give sort of the exact same option, accept and decline. But moving on. So let's just say we can see in Google Ads, we've got brilliant conversion tracking. We can see 100% of the forms being filled. Google's optimizing it. The cost per conversion is coming down. This is great news. And then sometimes, maybe our client might say to us, yeah, these leads are no good. What do you do? So
well, this is it.
we're
So,
optimizing, we're getting the form fills, but the client's saying they're just not good enough. So how do we optimize? How can we measure? Let's just say you got one form for all marketing. You've got Meta ads, Google ads, email marketing, organic traffic, and they're getting 100 leads and they're saying 80% of them are rubbish. How do we know where the 20% are coming from?
well, this is it. So you need to speak to the client about, okay, what specifically is it about those leads that is wrong, like that you don't like? So if it's something to do with like the service that people are asking for are just not it's not what they're offering, you can then go into the search query report and just see, okay, like these leads, are they like what are people searching to actually see that ad, to click onto that ad and then go and fill out a form on the website? Does it match up with what the client wants? That's the sort of the first port of call. Also, I think this is one something that people really do forget, is what is actually like what are your ads actually showing as? Because we have responsive search ads now, which essentially just means you have multiple different headlines, up to 15 headlines, and 4 different description lines that all can rotate indefinitely or to suit what they think people are going to respond to. And unless you pin certain things in place, it could be that your ad, because of the combination of headlines and descriptions, just actually isn't advertising what your business is advertising, and
Or
it's
it's just
misleading.
attracting the wrong standard of audience, maybe. So you might just be getting cheaper leads through. They're just not genuine, or they're not prepared to pay the right kind of price, because just the wording of the ad might be a little bit odd, and a little bit different. So they might be asking for the wrong products or services, or they might be asking for the right products or services just at the wrong price. These guys just haven't. They're not in your sort of price positioning or what have you. So, and also, I think another way to qualify people is to sometimes make the forms a little bit more not complex but refined. So we had to do this recently for a business loans company. So they said, well, we're getting too many people that they haven't got 12 months worth of business. They're not a limited company. So we could put that on the ad text, but it takes up space and not everybody reads it and they just click on it. So we did refine the kind of the application process, so that if they say they've got less than 12 months trading, if they're not a limited company, they can't progress with that form and they can't complete, and therefore they can't create that conversion and tell Google that was a good conversion. So over time, Google won't be getting these sort of false positives by time wasters filling out that form. So that's another way to do it. Also, things like what converts. Have you come across what
Exactly.
converts?
So what converts, this is something that you can set up that will also track the conversions through Google. But you can see the actual like data of the forms in that platform, and it will tell you if it's attributed to Google or to other channels as well. So it's something where you have to sort of plug it into your website. But what you can do is it's like a two-way conversation. Well, it's a conversation between Google and what converts is you can you can actually select what leads on what converts are legitimate. And you can also go as far as to put the value of that lead in there as well. So rather than just optimizing towards conversions, you could then maybe change that to optimizing towards the conversion value. And that value of that lead will get put fed back into Google, and Google will go, ah, brilliant. This was worth this much. If you're optimizing towards conversion value and you're feeding in that kind of information, Google can then go after the people that are the like the big ticket leads.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think if your client is happy to do it and or give you the information that you need and actually fill in that information, that's fantastic. And that's the tool that can really, really sort of take Google Ads to another level that a lot of people just don't bother with.
Yeah, I think what converts is a third-party tool. You have to plug it in, set it up, and there's obviously additional cost to it. But we find that people that use it properly really see the value from it. Again, it's just another system, though. You can feed it into things like HubSpot if you've got a CRM system, so that can integrate into that. So it doesn't need to be seen as an extra system. It's just a kind of a plugin and links with your different platforms. So that's another option. If you don't have that, we have sometime created sort of different landing pages for different ad channels. So Facebook, Google, what have you. So again, if we've got HubSpot forms, for example, we put them on the different landing pages, and we have each form for each advertising channel. So Google Ads, Meta, just general or what have you. So they have literally their own forms to fill out. So we can see in HubSpot or whatever CRM system they have, we can see the Google forms, what quality are there? Let's have a look at the Facebook ones. What quality are they? Because a lot of the time you'll say, oh, Facebook, they're getting conversions for like £1. Let's just say it's probably not 10 quid. Let's just say it's 10 quid. And Google, it's costing 40 quid a conversion. But if you see what are the quality of those conversions, and you might say, well, actually, Facebook, they've generated 100 conversions, but there's only 3 that are any good. The rest of it is just spam. Then that 10 quid becomes £100. So maybe just creating different landing pages with different forms and titling those forms so you can actually see the quality of those leads if you don't use something like what converts. So that brings us to the end, really, of conversion tracking, why they're so important, the different types of conversions that we have, how do you go about it, things to remember about optimizing for conversions, the different types of conversions. Is there anything else you think we've missed out there, Emma?
I I don't think so. I think we've pretty much covered all the stuff, I think the stuff that people need to know. We don't need to go into the absolute nitty-gritty of how to implement everything. So
Yeah, I mean, I would say with the setting up of Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, that I would say it's probably best to get your web developer to do that properly, and double check your data. The quality of the data, but also does the data reflect what your actual website says? So just keep double checking all your data, making sure it's accurate. If it's not, then obviously go and have a look at it. Otherwise, it's a complete waste of time. Lots of times we come across Google ads that are being optimized. Either they're just not being optimized for conversions, so that's a big waste of time, or the conversions aren't being tracked properly, or it's the wrong conversions that they're tracking for, or for whatever
double
reason,
counting, double counting conversions is a
come
big one.
across double counting before. So if you're not checking this, your Google ad could look amazing or it could look rubbish, but it's just not true. So you've got to make sure we're working with accurate information, I suppose. So do try and get some help from maybe a technical person for the integration of the analytics, and maybe an agency like ourselves if you ever need any help. But I appreciate your expert insight, Emma, and we'll see you for the next PPC video insights. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Catch you later. Enjoy the sunshine.
Thank you very much. Bye.